You know that feeling? The conversation hasn't happened yet, but you already run it a dozen times in your mind. The plan isn't in motion, but you've already mapped out every way it could fall apart. You call it being prepared, being responsible, being on top of it. But underneath, there's a quieter truth. You're gripping, and the tighter you hold, the less of your life you actually touch. Today, we're walking into an old paradox, one the Stoics and the Taoists found from opposite ends of the world. The more you try to control what was never yours to control, the more control you lose. And when you finally loosen the grip, something unexpected happens. Hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have a better understanding of the things in your life you're trying to grip so tightly, the things you're trying to control, and the ability to surrender so that you can put your energy into the things you can control. My name is Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates.
Hey, guys.
And this is the New Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the New Ashla Podcast. Today we're diving into the paradox of control, which to me is a very important topic because so often we don't realize just how much we're doing that. But before we dive too deep into this episode, Justin has an announcement he wants to make.
So just real quick, guys, I want to take a moment and share something that Michael and I are both excited about. As many of you know, this podcast has evolved over the last year and a half, and it's evolved into something really, really special. Special to me, and I know special to you, Michael. What began as simply the New Ashla Podcast with a tagline of shadow work and self-mastery and all these things, right? It's now become, I don't know if you guys noticed this, you Eagle Eye guys have noticed this, but it's become much more focused on the work that Michael and I do together in the realm of healing and psychology and spiritual teaching and relationships and personal growth, right? And learning how to better understand and master ourselves. That's why this show is now called the New Ashla Coaching and Self-Mastery Podcast. But there is another side of New Ashla that deserves its own space. For years, as you guys know, those of you who know me, for the last 20 plus years now, I've written and taught the way of Ashla, including the axioms of light and the sacred ethos and the force and spiritual philosophy and meditation and this path. And really what it means to actually build a life around these teachings, which spun off into this podcast you're listening now, because it turns out we can use it to heal people too. Which was not something, Michael and I kid about this. It was not something that I had ever really envisioned when I created much of this stuff, along with my master, Derek Thompson. So we're going to begin here very soon, and you'll start seeing stuff on our socials, and we'll talk about, more announcements like this as time goes on. But we'll have another brand new podcast, and it's going to be called The Light Within, with Justin V. Gates, Spiritual Philosophy, Sacred Wisdom, and the Way of Ashla. So that podcast will be the spiritual and philosophical home of New Ashla. And we're not sure of the format quite yet. How many episodes will I be able to trick Michael into doing with me? There may be some solo stuff that I do, but we're working out those details. But I kind of want to put that bug in your ear so you can be ready for that.
Yeah. One thing I got to add to this too is it's like we make things very digestible on this podcast. With all the work we've done, we've tried to make this where anyone from any place in their life, any place in their journey, any belief system can come in, take the knowledge and the wisdom we share and expand it out. But I will say the training I went through with Justin was very spiritual based, and spirituality is one of those things that we're trying to wrap our heads around as a culture. And even though we don't dive too much of that in this podcast, it's definitely worth diving into the light within, because that's where you're really going to see Justin shine the most, because as much as he makes a great coach, a great mentor, he's even better at articulating things from the level of someone who is sermoning. When he's able to just let all restraints out and really talk to his passion, which is the spiritual, the shaman's path, so to say, there's so much depth that you don't normally get in this podcast, even from here going forward. Because again, we try to make things as digestible for anyone on any walk. But there you will find an even closer relationship to spirituality, because that's sort of what me and Justin always bring. Is I bring the psychology and the earthliness, and he brings the philosophy and the spirituality. And truly, this is going to be something I think you guys are going to love, because it will be Justin being able to just be unfiltered. Here's a perspective, see the world through the lens I see it. So,
like I was with you. Like I was with you. You know, they're going to get to experience what it's like to, in a way, be taught by me. And I don't say that in some grandiose way. You know, I mean, there's lots of teachers out there. I'm not the only one, but yeah, and it'll follow a very similar structure as, you know, there will be a lesson, and there will be practical things that you can do. Many of the things that I would for Michael or any of my other students. So, yeah. We will be, because I didn't want to, of course I could have put those episodes on here and help us fill out the time slots, or the days, right? But I didn't want to dilute the very important work that we do on this podcast too. And because they're separate enough to stand on their own, I just think it's better that we do it that way. Ultimately, because we want to continue to help you heal and help you on this journey. And if you're into, you know, looking into another path or whatever, or hear the teachings without them being, as Michael said, filtered through kind of this coaching lens, then that's the place that you will get it. So I'm really looking forward to it. It doubles my workload, but it's okay. I think it's important. So
when it speaks to your passion on the topic, and where I was going to go with that earlier is just sort of the whole, I bring the earthliness, he brings the spirituality. As much as these things run side by side, the way we teach, the way we operate in our coaching and everything is like the earthly stuff is the entry point for people. It's the people who are looking to recover, get back into the world, or start pursuing true self-awareness. And there comes a point within even the way Justin and I work where someone wants to go more down that spiritual path of self-awareness and self-actualization. That's when I pass the torch to him, because that's where he operates, is in the higher spheres of spirituality. Not that there's any type of tiering structure, but just his approach, understanding, and his gift of helping people lies very well in that sphere. Right. And so, yeah,
that's my lane, man.
Yeah.
I try to stay in my lane. So back to the episode today. We really start off with kind of this control trap, don't we?
Yeah, which anyone listening, I really want you to not just hear the words we say and the examples we give, but really reflect in your own life. Where could I be secretly trying to control things? Because it's one of those insidious things. I know for me, I always thought I was so go with the flow. Little did I realize all the little ways I was micromanaging people, situations, outcomes, perceptions, how much control I truly was trying to gain in my life, even though I was someone who never tried to control anything, I thought.
Right. Here's a trigger word. Our first trigger word of the day, control freak. Right? We've all heard that. We've all heard that. We've probably called people that. Right? These are the people that will say, I'm just really organized and you're just a slob. Or I'm super responsible and you are not. Or one of my favorite ones, I just like things done correctly. Let me tell you guys a story about why Justin doesn't do laundry anymore. Because early on in his marriage to his beautiful wife, she didn't like the way that he did dishes or cleaned or did laundry, even though I've been doing that stuff many years before I ever met her, right? I mean, and she would nitpick the way that I would fold clothes or hang them up, or, I mean, anything, right? Because she has high standards, Michael, right? Or she just likes things done correctly. And she said to me, she's like, so I would fold things, and she would come back, unfold them, and fold them again. And it was about three times like that where I finally said, well, why do you do that? Well, you're not doing it right. I said, listen, if you ever want me to do laundry again, you'll stop correcting the way I do everything. She backed off of everything else, the way I vacuum, the way I clean, the way I do whatever, right? And I've kind of got a squirrel brain, so when I'm cleaning the house, I'm everywhere. I'm here, there, everywhere. And I clean the house in what's the word I'm looking for? I hop from room to room and I clean a little bit until I finally get it all done. Right? I don't know if there's a word for that, but
I know exactly what you're referring to because I'm the same way. I mean, I've gotten better where I'm in an area, but my goal is I move everything from one surface. Things go where they go and wind up on another surface. Then I clean that surface and things go. And
right.
Somehow everything just winds up clean and everything binds up back where it's at. But it's never, it's chaos.
Right. But and she backed off me on everything else, but she couldn't leave the laundry alone. So I told her, I was like, if you criticize me or try to control freak me over this laundry, I will never do laundry in this house again. And she couldn't help herself. And for many years, I'm talking for almost 2 decades, I didn't do laundry. I'm a man of my word, Michael. You know, but look, you know, people say, oh, look, I'm just really responsible. I just like things done properly. Usually Virgos are like this. You know any Virgos that are not like that? Because all the Virgos I know are like this.
Penny was a Virgo. Yes, I know exactly what you referred to.
Sometimes it's true. There's nothing wrong with kind of having that mindset, really. And there's certainly nothing wrong with discipline, if it is discipline. And there's certainly nothing wrong with having standards. All these things we really practice and preach here, right? But control is different. That's a whole different animal we're talking about. Control is what happens when the mind makes promises it can't keep all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? For example, if I can say to myself, if I manage everything, then nothing can go wrong or nothing can hurt me. That's a lie that's a lie because you can't control that. Or if I Professor X this and anticipate every problem that could happen, I will never be surprised. I promise you're still going to be surprised. So the promise is false, right? We're just kind of lying to ourselves.
Well, it's like, man, this takes me back. I used to get people together all the time for like group hangouts. I'd plan the whole trip, everything going on. I'd have the backup plans, and it's like, to me, it was effortless. Like, I got this whole schedule. Whatever we do, we'll at least have an idea where we're going next. And I never like rigidly held on to it. But looking back, it was totally a form of control. It was a way of making sure that no one was bored. It was my way of making sure that there was always something happening. It was also a way to manage people and their expectations of me. It was all these different things. Like, yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Not a lot of that, but there was a little bit of that when the four of us went on a trip together to Cottonwood. There was a little bit of that. And then I was like, dude, we could just hang out. It's cool. That's fun. Hanging out's fun, right? Like, but I went on a trip with a different couple one time, and the husband of the couple that we went on a trip with got really, really upset because everything in the town was shutting down. We had trouble finding a place to eat because like all the restaurants were closing because it was a holiday weekend, and it just completely took us by surprise, especially because it was a college town where you would think that things would be open late, right? And I was like, dude, it's cool. It's fine. Things happen. And I was like, we can go to 7-Eleven and have them make us pizzas, and we could just eat junk food for dinner, right? We're grown-ups. We could do whatever the hell we want. We can have junk food for dinner. You know what I mean? So, yeah. We can plan and plan and plan and plan, and you can lie to yourself and tell you that everything's going to work out exactly how you plan it. I promise you it won't, and you have to be ready for that. Because life does not give us that kind of control, does it?
Again, sort of like we were saying in the intro of this, is like the more you try to grip control, the more things fall out of your control. Like, one thing I've gotten the habit of is like when I got something big coming up, whether it's an event where I'm teaching, I'm meeting with someone professional for the first time, it's like I've learned I'm done thinking about it beforehand. I had a big meeting last Friday, and Thursday night Allison's just like, so are you nervous? And I'm like, no, I haven't thought about it. Like, however it goes is how it's going to go. I know roughly what I want to talk about, but I'm not trying to plan a speech or an intro. The conversation will flow as it needs to, and it did.
Yeah. What I find interesting today for today's episode is how you're marrying Stoics and Taoists into this topic. Why do you think that these two frameworks meet beautifully, in your words, like you were telling me before we did the show?
They both are huge on acceptance. It's about allowing things to be as it is. Because, I mean, the Stoics, I remember before I even got into healing, I was so fascinated by the works of the Stoics and how much they talked about it's like you only have control over your mind, not outside events. And that line I sat with so much, and it still is something I wrestle with from time to time. Like, how do I master my mind? But overall, it's that arching theme of when we release control and we surrender to life, and that does not mean give up or become apathetic, but just allow things to naturally unfold while giving our best effort. Life flourishes in ways we can't even imagine.
And here you are teaching the way of Ashla, right? This is at the heart of our path, heart of our philosophy. There is a marrying of some very important things, foundational things, and there's plenty of Taoism and there's plenty of Stoicism in there, right?
Most definitely.
Because the Stoics will say the path begins by distinguishing what is mine and what is not mine to deal with, right? Or to control. Yeah. You know, my actions, my choices, my character, my response, my discipline, my integrity, these things belong to me and I must be responsible for them. What is not, and then what is not mine, the outcome, the timelines.
Other people.
The reaction, the approval, right? I don't care about that stuff because I have no control over it. The Taoists approach it from the other side. They kind of philosophically remind us that forcing the river does not move the water. The water moves as it moves, right? It only exhausts us if we're trying to swim uphill, as it were. Yeah. You're just gonna be. I've said to you many times, you just get taken, kicking and screaming. You're gonna go that way. If the universe has to move heaven and earth to make you understand and learn the lesson, you're gonna learn it. You're still gonna go that way. Right? Now, this doesn't mean on the Taoist side of things that we should always be passive to a point where we do nothing, right? And on the Stoic side of things, this is definitely not about abandoning responsibility. That's one of our sacred callings, is to be responsible. But we have to learn here, and this is what we're going to learn today, is the difference between control and influence and why we have to be responsible for those things.
Well, we have this bad habit of making more things our responsibility than actually is. You know, we try to carry so much weight that is not ours to carry. And it can be so insidious the way it tries to rear its head. Even you social chameleons out there, that is a form of trying to control. Because if you can adapt enough to your environment, then you can control the environment to a safe place. And it's like, I'm guilty of this. I've done this. Like, this was my MO for a long time, but
you can tell yourself that you can control it, and you're just bullshitting yourself. I don't care what you tell yourself. If it's not true, it's not true, right? Yeah. If it's not true, it's not. It will never be true. You can't will it into existence. If it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. You can build a lot of illusion around that. Still going to be an untrue. There's an axiom that I love so much, and it's, you know this, it's one of my favorites because it kind of sums up the path that we walk, and it fits so well for this segment. It's one who walks the path of light does so with acceptance and contentment, free of conflict. And this fits here, and you and I have had many conversations outside of the podcast about this. This axiom is beautiful because the need for control is a lot of times rooted in resistance to what is real, what is in reality, what's true. And this axiom confronts that. It's like, this axiom says, listen, if you want to be content and at peace and free from conflict, let go of the bullcrap. Stop lying to yourself.
Yeah. No, I love this axiom because it is a lifestyle. When we can allow ourselves to step into this perspective, because it doesn't mean you're not trying to make things happen. It's the detachment from it happening or not. It is the ability to ride the waves of life. When something bad occurs, we accept it, we understand it, we see what's the next step. We don't catastrophize, we don't blow it out of proportion. It is just, it is living in congruence with reality and allowing ourselves to mold to the occasion. And sometimes will be harder. You know, one of our favorite sayings is you rise to the lowest level of your training. And there is so much truth to that because life can hit you with some crap and you will hit that. You will go to your lowest level of training. That's the whole point of this path, to build that training, to build that resistance so that when a storm comes, you know exactly what to do, whether that's to build shelter or hunt food, you know?
Right. It is one of the most simple truths, but also the hardest thing to integrate, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the axioms are like that. You know, I said to you many times, and I've said to you guys many times too. Justin understands that these things are easy to say. Trust me, I get it. It's the application where they get tough. But you can get there. You can get there. But I have a question for you. Why does control feel so safe to us in our nervous system? I mean, because and some of us know we're lying to ourselves, right?
It's because it's part of our survival instincts, right? We crave being able to predict what's going to happen. We crave removing as much uncertainty as possible. If you take anything away from this entire episode, it's the more you can increase your relationship with the unknown, the appreciation for it, the acceptance of it, the more you will lose that rigid attachment to trying to be able to manage anything that comes up. The more you'll be flexible with the things that arise so that you're no longer activated or grow stiff when they do. It's that instinct within us we must quell, because this instinct saved our ancestors, right? You know, being able to make sure we had food ready, making sure we had shelter, what the next plans were, preparing for the seasons, all sorts of things. The more we could remove uncertainty, the more we could make sure we were safe. But now that's being used against us in this day and age because most things are provided. So we must release that attachment to knowing all things, because it's just going to lead us astray in the end.
And we certainly need to stop calling control a personality trait. It is not that. You're identifying with something you can't identify with, that you can't be. You can't do. You can't control everything. You may bullshit yourself enough to make things feel familiar, and they may end up becoming automatic, but you're not actually controlling anything.
Yeah. And if you feel like you're someone who is a control freak, then ask yourself, how much do you trust people, especially the people you do trust? How much do you actually trust them with the responsibility? How much do you trust your job and your life? How much do you live in hypervigilance? Because often it is just a relationship with trust is where you're lacking. And so you're trying to control everything because you don't trust anyone else with it.
Yeah, it costs you. These things have a cost. Peace. They cost you connection. They cost you rest. You can't rest when you're constantly trying to control everything, right? You're constantly anxious and stressed out, even if you don't feel it.
And you can't be truly known while you're trying to be that way, because you won't be vulnerable.
Here's the irony of segment 1 of the show today. The irony is most of our suffering begins when we try to control things that we were never not just meant to control, but can't control. But also at the same time, we're neglecting the one place where our power actually lives, right? So this is the irony of it. That's the paradox. So when you can surrender the illusion of controlling everything, you start recovering the power to govern yourself. That's where the Stoics come in. This is where that line that I just said is where the Taoist and the Stoic meets. The Taoist says, I surrender the illusion of controlling everything. The Stoic says, I can start regaining the power to control myself, to govern myself. It's a literal cure to anxiety.
It's amazing. What are some other ways this shows up?
Well, besides the obvious stuff that we talked about, the control freak type stuff, it shows up, you said it earlier, you rehearsing these conversations, or you rehearsing these. If you're a boss, I've known bosses that will rehearse how they're going to chew you out before they even see you in the morning. You're just rehearsing everything that you can so that you can build up this illusion of actually having control over it. But you can rehearse a conversation and a guy like me shows up, I'm going to shatter that. with 6 words, right? By the time I get to word 5 or 6, I've already shattered your whole plan. And now we're out in the wild, Michael. Right? You never know what you're going to get. So rehearsing these conversations, rehearsing these scenarios, and you'll be lying in bed, and your mind is in a little conversation about tomorrow, right? And you're imagining what they might say and how you'll respond and how they might react, and you figure out a way to deal with that too.
Don't forget the key points.
Right, but in this you're already figuring out how you're going to defend yourself, or how you're going to prove your points, how you're going to avoid being misunderstood. But nowhere in there are you rehearsing the fact that you need to listen and not just hear what the other person's going to say, but listen with the whole thing, right? So that's one way, the whole rehearsal stuff.
Another area is how often are you checking your phone, right? Whether you're waiting for messages, you're checking for emails, the news, my God. Like, that, I think that's one of the biggest ones I see plaguing people is they're constantly in the news because they want the control of knowing what's going to happen. They want to know what the outcome's going to be, what's changed. Mm-hmm. Becomes obsessive.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only are you role-playing, or I guess you kind of are role-playing the conversation for tomorrow, you're also replaying something that already happened. So you're habitually just replaying over and over and over what did happen. And of course, you make it all negative about how you could have done this and how you should have done that. And even here, you'll start to twist you'll start to twist the reality of what they said into something that what you're trying to say what they really meant. In other words, you're applying the illusion to it and you're not in reality again. That's another thing that we tend to do if we are trying to control everything. And yeah, the bank account thing, that's something that I had to break myself of, looking at the bank account all the time, as if I'm going to magically get paid or money's magically going to go in there, right? That was something I used to do a lot, and I felt called out by this topic today. But I have no control. I mean, I can work jobs and I can get money deposited into there, but is checking my bank account 1,000 times a day gonna? I used to do that. I used to be really bad, dude. Yeah, and I don't even know why. I can't even tell you why I would do it. It wasn't like there was $1 million in there. It wasn't like I was looking.
Something's going to change.
Right. Yeah, but the emails and the another one was when I'm having something delivered. Gotta look at the tracking. I look at the tracking like 1 billion times.
Like it's going to change how fast it's going to get there.
It's not. All that's going to happen is it's going to get delayed, and then you're going to be pissed. That's what's going to happen, and it has happened. I noticed that it doesn't happen as much when I just leave it alone. What about editing yourself in real time?
Man, like I was talking about earlier about the whole trying to be a social chameleon, trying to read the room, and sometimes it's good to do that. But if you catch yourself doing it all the time, always sort of trying to be who you need to be in a situation, that's not authenticity. That is you trying to control the situation.
Right. But, it's definitely not peace, is it?
No.
That's us letting fear, in a way, control some things. Like, we'll try to put fear in control of our responsibilities. How well do you think that's going to go?
Yeah. Well, isn't that just the root of control? It's like, look at all the examples we've given. We're checking it all the time because we're worried it's not going to get there. We're rehearsing the conversations because we want to make sure, because we're scared we're not going to get our point across, or it's going to land on deaf ears, or we're going to hurt their feelings so much, so we got to approach it the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Fear is at the heart of all of this.
It is because it'll tell us that, if I don't rehearse this conversation or rehearse this meeting, I'm always going to be caught unprepared. If I don't check this message 1,000 times, then I'll be left unaware. Axiom of light, others will perceive trepidation. Be mindful. This axiom points out that hesitation on our part when we're unease, where we're at, when we're trying to control things that we can't control, it shows, right? Let's just try to simplify this. It shows in our mood, in our actions, in our everything. Because fear in these moments, and especially of uncertainty, trigger these other emotions that really work against what we're trying to do. We don't see it that way sometimes, but it does. This axiom tells us, calm down, be mindful, be wise. You need some mindfulness, some self-awareness, self-care even, and allow these things to come and pass through you without attachment or judgment. It's a great axiom, especially when you're starting a path. This is one that I made you sit with a lot because I hated
this axiom. I
knew that once you started down this path, people were going to start pointing things out. And they did, right? I know there was a few times where you got called out by people because they didn't understand what you were trying to do, but you also kind of asked, and I shouldn't say you asked for it, but this is the nature of this axiom, the nature of this path is that people will be weary of you. You know, they're going to see what's happening to you as you're changing.
Well, it's just that whole as above, so below, or so below, as above, as below, so above. That doesn't sound right.
As above, so below.
Okay, that was it. But it's that whatever you're resonating, people will pick up on. And man, I had to sit with that because often I knew I came across as anxious before I started this training. And I mean, people can smell it on you.
Yes, they can. And here's why. Because this path strips away the lies and strips away the mask and strips away the costumes. And here we are, truthful, trying to build integrity and trying to not be naked and afraid. We're just trying to be naked, right? The naked truth, you know. So why does control hide so well inside of these behaviors that look like responsibility or loving? Why is it so hard for us to recognize the difference between healthy care and this kind of fear-based managing?
It makes me think of unconditional love, right? Unconditional love has no conditions. Mm-hmm. When you're not operating from unconditional love, you're operating from a fear-based love. I need to control the love. I need to control the person. It's so dangerous because it's so hard to spot when you're not looking for it. It shows its head because, again, it's that fear that comes up that tells you, you can't trust this outcome. You can't trust these people. You can't trust yourself. And when that happens, we try to manage everything around it so that we can trust that moment or trust that person. When in the end, it's all just control.
It's really dangerous because fear knows how to make itself look like virtue, doesn't it? When we think of fear, we think of scary monsters and ugly things and all this stuff. It doesn't always come that way. In fact, it disguises itself as love or responsibility because it knows how to travel the lines, the roads of these lies that we tell ourselves. And fear can make itself look wise and disciplined and protective or even spiritual. This is why the superpower of discernment is very important, right?
Yeah.
And in Ashla, I made you ask yourself this question: what is actually leading me? Is it really love? Is it really responsibility? Is it really stewardship? Is it really service? Right? Because the opposite of those things, is it love or is it fear? Is it responsibility or is it anxiety? Is it stewardship or is it control?
Yeah.
Is it service or am I trying to make someone else's journey less uncomfortable for me? Which is a big one.
Yeah.
I got to have a very interesting conversation with a person that I've just met. And this person had this conversation with me with an open heart and an open mind, which I really did appreciate because he wasn't trying to make my journey less uncomfortable for him, because it really could be, especially if you're very, very devout in a religion, because I'm not devout in a religion, but I do respect the teachers and masters that come from those religions, right? And for a lot of those people, it could be a very difficult conversation, uncomfortable at least. I'm never disrespectful, but the things that I teach and the things that I believe can make it uncomfortable. And I was really appreciative. And I even told him, I said, hey, I appreciate you being open-minded and open-hearted for this conversation. And we have to normalize thanking people for doing that kind of stuff. So.
Well, and it's important because it's in those conversations when you're activated in a conversation, watch yourself, because that is one of those moments where control can rear its ugly head, right? We start shutting down. We end up needing the last word. Curiosity moves out the window. But when we're able to stay present in a conversation, we could learn us some.
We do learn. We do learn. Everything can be a teacher. Everything.
Yeah.
Even the stuff we don't like so much.
Yeah. Hey, it's all a part of us. So what are some things people can do to start releasing this, to embody the ability to surrender control?
This is where the paradox becomes the practice. Because the answer is to not stop caring or trying or doing these things to protect yourself. We just got to get smarter about it, right? We have to employ wisdom. Because the answer for some will be to, I just need to detach and be cold, right? That's what a lot of people do. And then that leads to isolation eventually, which is something that we know is not good for us. We've done many episodes on that, right? Isolation's bad. Where nothing matters and nothing can touch you because you isolate away. That is not the answer. And that's not actually even true surrender. That's just you shutting down and padding it with spiritual language around it.
Oh, it's surrender. It's just a different type of surrender. It's not the one we preach about.
No. And the answer is not to stop acting either. We have to get to the root of these things. And really, to start that process, we got to start sitting ourselves down. The best way to really start changing this, for those of you who hate journaling, I'm afraid that you're going to have to learn to journal on this one, because journaling, for me, was what cured this stuff, right? Because if you study Stoicism, journaling is very important because you can go back and see how you've changed. So the first move is simple. You have to sort out what is actually yours from the things that aren't yours. So we're going to take the Stoic route. This is where I excel, right? I know a lot of my axioms and a lot of the teachings sound very Taoist in a way, but Michael will tell you, at my core, I am a stone cold Stoic, right?
Yeah.
I really am. So we have to start, and you just create a column, and you write down the things that are yours to control. Don't bullshit it. The things that are yours, control. And you need to build another column to say the stuff that isn't yours. And you just need to stare at that, honestly, for a good long while.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand right off the bat what is yours and what is not yours. What is your business and what's not your business type thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's simple. I mean, what is in your field of control, right? You have your actions, the effort you put forth. You have your responses. How much more do you have beyond that? Because I tell you what, in that other column, you're going to see things like outcomes, other people, timing, all sorts of different things. There's nothing you can do to expedite that or change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's an axiom that really, really punches us right in the gut when we do this. You must know the extent of your power, ability, and influence if you are to maintain it. Right? Let that sink in for a second. Because we have limits, don't we?
Yeah.
And each of us have limits, and the limits are in different places for each of us. If we're not mindful of those limits, we risk overreaching, overestimating what is ours to carry. We have to use our power and influence wisely and ethically. But if we don't even know what it is, how can we do that?
We have to become aware. You know, another important thing is like woo-wee, right? It's not an action, but it's
effortless action.
It's effortless action. Yeah. It is action without friction. It is effort without force. It's allowing yourself to follow the momentum. And that also means that there are going to be days where you got 20% and you need to meet yourself there. Sometimes you can only do so much there, but when it comes down to it, that we need to learn to listen to the flow of life out externally and internally to become one with it.
Sometimes it is unwise to struggle against the current of happenings. Flow into them and let them take you where they will. That's another axiom of light that tells us, hey, go ahead and try to swim uphill if you want. You're not going to get very far. You're just going to get tired and more confused. And you're going to go kicking and screaming anyway. Because you don't have control over that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That is the act of surrendering with power, with agency, with sovereignty. That is a good type of surrender where we understand what is ours and what is not ours and flow with it.
Yeah. It's like I said, I had that big meeting last week. I didn't think about it. It's the whole trading prediction for presence, because you can't control the future, and you are expending so much energy trying to plan, trying to figure out all the different ways it can go. If you allow yourself to not have all those restrictions, because one of the other big issues I've learned is when you plan for 100 possibilities, you start looking for those possibilities in the interaction, and you lose the ability to have presence in that moment where you can actually flow with the conversation, where you can flow in the interaction, even if they're difficult. So trade that prediction for presence.
Especially when they're difficult. Through the Path of Ashla, we understand that trying to control is a misuse and a disrespect of our power, is it not? And the axiom of light that we use to teach that and to convey that message is true power is the strength to reject it, because it is a disrespect and a misuse of our power of trying to control things. The path of light, we don't seek power for the sake of having power. We seek power so we can empower others, right? Not to dominate them. We try to harmonize with life and all its twists and turns and all its chaos and all its order and all these different paradoxes. We must learn to flow with that.
We have to.
Why does that kind of sorting practice work so well when we think about it psychologically?
Well, on one side, you have that side of you that craves certainty. Through that list, it allows your mind to ground in what is certain, which is virtually not very much. But when you're able to ground in that, you can put your mind and your energy towards those things. How do I want to show up? Do I want to be strong? Do I want to be steadfast? Do I want to have a bunch of ideas?
Right.
The more we can separate out what is out of our control, the more we can just push that side out of perspective. Because as much as it's good to have awareness of what the situation's going to be like, rumination leads to disaster.
It does. Well said.
What do you think the number one thing, if the listener here has resonated with, they struggle with control? And it's something that they do more than they care to. What is the first effective practice to start building awareness of this and then to start taking action? I mean, you said the list, which might be the best intro spot to it, but...
Right. I think it's a good question because it really exposes kind of how much of our life is not limited by ability, but by our relationship with uncertainty, which is something we have to get good at, right? I think you said it earlier in the show. We have to enter into a good relationship with uncertainty. But it's not, like all things, I will say, this isn't a time to run. This is a time to walk. You know, the list is crawling. Now, how do we start integrating those things? Because there are going to be some conflicts there, especially if you want to control everything, right? So you start with the things that you can surrender to, the things that are maybe already aligned. You just didn't know it until you've seen it in front of you, right? And we don't do this recklessly or carelessly. And we start with the things that we won't debate with ourselves with. That was weird. Because there are times, and you guys are going to find that when you write this stuff out, and this is why I always say write this stuff out, you're gonna look at some things and go, oh wow, yeah, that's actually true. I already believe that. I just didn't know it up here because I couldn't see it. And you know those things, you move those things out of the way, and then you start one at a time with those things that there are some conflict with. Can you think of any examples? Like I make goals and
job review.
A job review, right? Job review. That's going to go however it's going to go. Job reviews, it's been my experience, job reviews are more about the personality of the reviewer and reviewee that really leads those things, not your actual work and performance. Because there's always that one guy that says nobody gets a 5. No, sometimes people do perform to a 5. So start, clear out the things that you already align with, and then start one at a time, step by step, with those things that you're not. And you can even, start making other lists, and you can start tracking your progress in your journal, which is a good thing to do, because then you can give yourself some motivation and give yourself some kudos, and right? Those things are important.
Do you have any final thoughts on the episode before we jump into the exercise and affirmations?
We love paradoxes here, do we not? They're our favorite things in the whole world. Paradox, this is where paradox becomes freedom, because surrender does not make you powerless. It actually takes a great deal of power to surrender, right? Because it gives you power back on the things that you're wasting time with, especially those things that aren't yours to control. When I stopped trying to control everything, I regained a ton of energy that I could use for my real life, not my illusionary life. And when I stopped trying to manage every reaction I would get, I get back honesty, because then I'm stopped trying to mask, right? So when I stopped trying to predict every single thing that was going to happen, I actually became more present, which is one of the most important things we can do. So, and for our Taoist friends out there, when I stopped trying to force the river, I actually recovered more movement for myself. So that's the invitation in this show today. Act fully, love fully. Be prepared, but don't do so dishonestly. Speak honestly. Do what is yours, and then release what doesn't belong to you, and be content with that. And don't worry, this isn't going to make you somebody who cares less. You're becoming someone who can now trust themselves much more, and at least trust yourselves enough to act without some kind of guarantee. So that's what I leave with everybody with today.
Beautiful. For exercise today, I want you to get a piece of paper, kind of like Justin was talking, put a line right down the middle. And I just want you to think of something in your life that is stressing you out right now. A situation, a person, maybe it's a job or a relationship. And just on one side, write down everything you have control over, which could be leaving that situation. Then on the other side, write the things outside of your control. And just after you finish that, take a deep breath and really soak it in. Look at it. And cross that whole right side out, because there is nothing that you can do with that. Then pick one thing from the side you can control and allow yourself to act on it, to do what you need to find peace in that situation or with that person. Do it fully, completely. And when it's done, let it be done. For affirmations today, I control my effort, not my outcomes. I act fully and release completely. Uncertainty is not a threat. It is where my life happens. I trust myself to meet whatever comes. And my grip does not keep me safe. My presence does. And for our journaling prompts today, what am I holding on to so tightly that my hands are too full to receive anything else? Whose approval, outcome, or timeline am I trying to control right now? And what am I afraid happens if I stop? And then lastly, write about a time that something slipped completely out of your control and turned out to be a doorway. What does that memory ask you to trust now? I appreciate you guys staying with us through this episode. This is one of my favorite topics because it's one of those that you just don't really realize how much it's entrenched into your life until you're able to step back and really evaluate things honestly. If this helped you, please give a like, subscribe, leave a comment. We love those. Share it with someone you know if you think it could help them. That helps us get out there. That helps us get in front of more people and help change the world a little bit more. Also, follow us on all the socials: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram.
I think you actually covered them all, I think. Yeah.
Oh, and also, if this resonated with you, check out the episode guide below. Definitely will help you out. And we also have our newsletter that if you sign up for, you'll get a much more detailed guide for each of the episodes. So definitely jump into that while we're offering that. And then don't forget to check out the best website ever.
Greatest website ever. Greatest website ever built. Most bestest is newashla.com.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it. Go. Do it. Run. Run to it. And
Oh, we love you guys.
Give us feedback on the website too. Yeah. There's a way to contact us if you wanna go deeper into maybe some possible coaching or training or whatever. There's ways to contact us, and we can help you with that too. So
yeah, we're here for you.
You can find that over at the website.
Yep. With love and gratitude, ad lucem.
Ad lucem.